All right, good morning, Pearland. This is Mayor Kevin Cole coming to you live. This is our Talk of the Town live right here at City Hall in our studio. And this morning is our, third edition of Talk of the Town live. Instead of going out into the community and bringing City Hall out there, we're coming to you live right there on your stream where we can have a great interaction not only with people right here in the studio, but in addition to that, we're going to have a conversation with you and your questions here in just a minute. But I'd like to start this podcast off with a great announcement. And thanks to the folks at Texas Emergency Care Center right here in Pearland, Texas. They have graciously donated a transfer lift that can be used at our recreation center as well as the natatorium. And I have Sean here this morning, a part of the Texas Emergency Care Center, and I'm going to introduce him, and we're going to talk a little bit about what was behind the reason for the lift and the availability that you as a citizen can access it, and what that will mean for people in our community that need such assistance, especially for aquatic care needs and aquatic recreational needs, and ultimately aquatic therapy. Many people who have trouble walking and getting around, sometimes the best therapy that they can have is in a pool. So this chairlift is giving us that opportunity to bring that service to you. So Sean, I just want to thank you this morning for, number one, coming and being a part of this podcast and opening yourselves up to sharing the background a little bit about this chairlift and just you guys and the interaction that you've had with the couple that brought it to us. And in fact, just by way of information, June Giddings and her husband Bernard were the inspiration behind this. Won't get into all the details of how it came about, but we have a need in our community, and Texas Emergency Care brought that need to us. So first off, thank you for coming and being a part of it.
My pleasure, my pleasure. And we're hoping with Texas Emergency Care, we're part of the community. We're right here, and we were hoping to, reach out and help provide a service for, the community, the people that can't just get in and out of the pool like everyone, right, and be able to access that that exercise like you spoke on. Swimming is one of the best exercises you can do, and it really helps people that don't have the physical abilities that others do, and to get that exercise. And we were happy to provide that little step that will give more people access.
Well, the great thing is, and I've said this often, that Pearland is one of the most giving communities that I know. In fact, I make this claim often, and I want our community to always back me up when I say this, and I've never seen a need go unmet in our community as long as the need is known. And this is like no other, just like any other case. The need was presented, and Texas Emergency Care stepped up and said, "Hey, we're going to take care of that need." And so, we are grateful that we have it, and not just for the couple who brought the need to the forefront. Ultimately, this is here for many people in our community to access, and that's the greatness of it. Is the need was a couple that raised it, but there's going to be hundreds of people across our community that will have the ability to use that.
I think once people actually see the chair and the lift in use, it's going to open their eyes of thinking of family members or friends that are like, hey, we can use this.
Right.
And we can, they can come in and partake and be able to access that. And I think it will open the door for a lot more people.
Well, what's important also about it is this is a therapy that now people can get locally. Many times we have people at great facilities up in the medical center for physical therapy and those types of things, and post physical therapy they still need to get the aquatic therapy. Where do they get it? Well, most of the time they have to go back into the medical center, back into Houston, to get that therapy. Well, now they can do that here. They'll be able to make arrangements with our Parks and Rec department. They're at the rec center and be able to schedule time and use that. So instead of traversing back into Houston, we can bring that here, which is a better quality of life for everyone. They're not on the road up in Houston, and so it's making it accessible. You know, a lot can be said about inclusivity. You know, we have an inclusive playground now on the west end of our community, opening up those avenues to people of all abilities. Well, here we are now with our aquatic center and our natatorium, opening up that natatorium to people of all abilities, and furthering their quality of life and bettering their quality of life. And it all came about because of Texas Emergency Care. And so, you know, while at the end of the day, you might look at it and go, well, it's a really small thing, ends up being a very big thing in our community. And, you know, for that, it's grateful that we have the opportunity to do that. And it's really grateful that we have companies like yourself and others that saw that need and then stepped up. So we can't wait to see how this gets put into play. In fact, on the screen you see Bernard there and his wife, and you know, what a great opportunity and a great chance for this community to step up and take care of their needs in this time in their life, right? And I can't wait to see how this gets used more and more in the days, months, and years to come throughout our community and the lives that it will impact. So from the City of Pearland and our Parks and Recreation Department, you know, Sean, I want to say thank you again for you and Texas Emergency Care for taking care of this.
Glad to be here, glad to help.
All right, thank you very much. I think we're going to cut away to a couple of announcements, and we'll be right back. Very good.
Thank you.
Hello, Pearland. Well, it is that time of year as hurricane season is just about upon us. So it is very important that you listen to this message and get prepared. You know, the City of Pearland has actively been working over the last several months, making sure that it is prepared for storm season. Now we're asking for you, each individual and each family in our community, to be prepared as storm season is about to begin. It is supposed to be an active season this year, so we need to really take heed. So personally, make sure if you're a STEER recipient, make sure that you are prepared with your documentation and your communication plan. You can actually go to your text messages and you can receive alerts by dialing 888-777 and putting in PLTX alerts in the message, and you can sign up for alerts through this season. In addition to that, make sure you have your insurance paperwork ready. Make sure you have your travel kit if you're going to evacuate. Certainly make sure that you have provisions at home if you're going to stay during hurricane season and a storm is moving in. Things like water, canned meat, things for your children. And if you're going to evacuate, do not forget your pets. Make sure that you have provisions for them and that they are taken along with you. Together, each and every one of us are going to get through this storm season and survive and thrive through it. But all it takes is one storm. And I'm asking you to start now and be prepared by June 1st. Thank you.
My name's Tri Sam. I'm the general manager here at Bayway Chevrolet, and the Celebration of Freedom is our favorite event that we sponsor each and every year. Pearland is like no other place. We got a ton of people here, a ton of great businesses, great food everywhere, but it's still a small town because of the people. And for that many people to be in one place celebrating the same thing, it's a memory that my kids will never forget. It's a memory that I love every single year. There's always amazing food, and the fireworks, I'm telling you, to be right underneath them, you cannot beat it. The music's always amazing. It's my favorite night of the year. I can remember going to baseball games or 4th of July celebrations and getting to watch the big firework displays and just in awe of the whole thing, not being able to even understand how they pulled it off. And you know, on the 4th of July every year, I still kind of feel the same way.
Welcome back.
All right, welcome back.
Celebration of
good.
Freedom. I know.
That's right. I love celebrating. We just celebrated a great segment, and
We did.
with Texas Emergency Care, and now here we get to celebrate more.
And we did celebrate. We did Juneteenth a couple weeks
Juneteenth,
ago. We
right.
celebrated that. We're all about celebrating here.
Yeah.
But before we move off of the natatorium, there's some other news that we have coming up here.
Correct.
You may or may not be aware, we're going to do a closure pretty soon, July the 1st.
Right, next Monday.
Next Monday. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
We've talked about this a little bit. You know, the best time to close a pool is in the middle of the summer. Not really. That
No.
was a joke.
Actually, the best time to close the natatorium is never.
Right. Because it is an indoor pool.
Yeah, but necessary.
Yeah.
Very necessary. And so, you know, we were talking about this the other day, and Josh, just like you mentioned, we've been talking about some of the necessary capital repairs to the natatorium that have been needed for some time. If you're a regular attender of the natatorium and or the rec center, you know that we've had some HVAC problems for some time. And at the same time, the pool itself needs some capital repairs.
Just like any pool.
Just like any pool. If you own a pool and, you know, at some point in time you've got replastering that needs to take place, or you have some decking that needs to be repaired, and those types of things within your pool. This is just, it's an Olympic-sized pool. It's just massive in size, and so as a result, we have the same need. Most people forget this pool is now 14 years old.
Golly.
Okay, it's
almost
14
old
years
enough
old.
to drive.
Exactly, and as a result, the only way we can do these repairs, you can't do that with people, and this isn't a weekend repair.
Right.
In fact, doing all the decking and replastering requires, you know, complete draining of the pool.
Yeah.
And so
that draining an Olympic size.
Yeah, and that's
pool.
not an overnight process.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there's already work beginning very soon to work and change out the entire HVAC system. A lot of that work is happening outside the building, and then to make the closure as minimal as possible. Our anticipation is that the closure will be about 90 days, and fingers crossed we can get it done sooner.
Sure.
And back open. We do have our ISD and their teams and everything else that start back up, you know, in the fall when school starts, and so we're trying to, you know, get everything done so we can get them back in and for their training and everything else for their aquatics program. At the same time, we have clubs and other swim teams that utilize the pool, and we have been making arrangements to find them other locations to practice, whether it's Alvin ISD or other types of locations, to make those accommodations. And also want to make sure that people are aware, if you're a member of the natatorium and we're closing this down, we're going to be taking care of that as well.
Yeah.
We're going to be extending memberships for 3 months, things of that nature to make sure that we're right on the membership. You know, this is, you're paying for a membership, but yet you can't use it.
Right.
So we want to make sure that we're making that right with people. It is an inconvenience. We just ask people to be patient with us. These are necessary repairs, and if we don't do these repairs, then we're going to be in even a bigger problem.
Yep.
And I will tell people the HVAC system alone is only running at about 25% capacity.
Yep.
Okay. And if we don't get in there and do this replacement, I mean, this thing could go out at any moment. We saw what happened last summer with 110 degree, you know, weather.
Right.
You know, it's already hot again this summer. You know, what does that mean if we don't get in and take care of it? Right. So these are the necessary, you know, maintenance and repair and capital repairs that any city or any responsible owner of a facility has to do.
Well, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. The responsible, you know, thing to do in that situation, and taking the time and making the effort to align a couple of really big projects, right? Because the repairs on the pool itself, I mean, that's a massive undertaking in and of itself. The HVAC system is another one. And so for our capital projects division, working with parks to say, how can we do this in the most effective and efficient way? You know, it did fall right in the middle of summer, but to your point before, there's no good time to close a pool like this. Yeah. And if we didn't do it, you know, we'd have, I mean, this fantastic feature just further deteriorate and to fall into complete disrepair. And we certainly don't want that to happen. We're proud of that pool and all the people that use it, and we want people to that have the memberships to be able to get the most out of it. And so sometimes that requires just a little bit of tune-up.
You know, it's interesting. Read something, I can't remember if it was social media or a news article, but the city of Texas City, for example, natatorium, roughly the same age, might be 2 years older, 15, 16 years old, but roughly went into play about the same time that ours did. They just went through a closure, same exact types of things, HVAC, pool decking and plaster and all those kind of things. And so this is just par for the course, or it's normal, be able to do this. And we did want to align this and make sure that we only had to close it once. Because if we had just done the HVAC, well, we would have had to have closed at some point for the HVAC and then back up and running. And then boom, we'd have to close again for the pool repairs. So let's get it all done at once so we can close it once and work these projects together. Back to your coordination, comment. I think it's real important that we do that with the care and concern of our members and our constituents. In the forefront of all those decisions.
Absolutely. And so a couple other things. There is a web page on the parks. So if you go to the Recreation Center and Natatorium landing page, there's a big banner about the middle of the page that has a link to all of the closure information, including the adjusted membership rates, right? So they thought through that to make sure that residents are being discounted for not being able to use that feature, as well as a number of different, any sort of question you might have. One of the other features, and this is I think one of the lesser known or lesser discussed upgrades, is a migration from its liquid chemical treatment to tabletized treatment. So supposedly that's going to be a much safer system, much easier to maintain and handle. And so, efficiency gains that come along with that as well. And so we're excited about what the end product is going to be, but we fully recognize, we're going to have to go through that period of
I'm gonna say this, and then we can move on to the next segment. But it's like when you re-roof your house. So when it's all said and done, you're going to walk into the natatorium, and you're not really going to see a difference in the look and the feel. But it's secure and it's working right. It's just like your roof. When somebody comes in and they pull the roof off and they replace it, they do that in a day, and you go, doesn't look any different. But it works. It's securing your family. It's securing the property. It's the same thing here. You're not going to see a big difference, but that the functionality of the pool itself and the natatorium itself is where it's all about. And so we're going to spend a lot of money, a lot of time and effort, and at the same time, it's not going to look and feel different, but it's actually going to be working better. And so all the complaints about the HVAC system and those types of things, we hope, fingers crossed, that takes care of it, and we can move on. And 10 years from now or 15 years from now or whatever, we may be back in doing some replastering and some those types of things again, and that just comes with the normal course of these types of assets.
Well, and I would like to think that we make a serious commitment to taking care of the things that are entrusted to us, and taking care of the things that we commit to as a community, like having a natatorium and a competition pool and features like that.
Well, when I ran on this, my PAIR plan, the R is resource management. Well, how do we manage all of our resources? We have resources of people, we have resources of assets, we have resources of budget and tax money and those types of things. And how do we manage all of that efficiently, effectively, securely, making sure that we are securing those types of things and being responsible with the assets that the good taxpayers in our community entrust the council and our staff with. And and that is what happens in the room around the corner from here each and every month. That ultimately is what we're entrusted with. And so it's real important that we do the right thing, even when it hurts sometimes, to maintain them. And I go back to your own home. You can defer maintenance only so long. And the longer you defer, sometimes it may cost you more
Yep.
than doing routine stuff along the way.
Absolutely.
Right.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of
Absolutely.
cure.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions about the natatorium closure, there's tons of content on the website, and of course you can always reach out to us and ask any sort of questions you want, or drop them in the chat and we'll try to answer questions here as well. Speaking of, well, getting back to the celebrating piece, we're not celebrating the natatorium closure, but we are celebrating the outcome of it.
I was going to say I'm celebrating the HVAC system finally getting fixed.
Yeah, that'll be the humidity in there right now is
It's rough.
terrible on my hair. I know you experience that too.
I know. It's horrible.
Speaking of celebrating, Celebration of Freedom.
Yes. July
is
4th.
like right around the corner. I mean,
Next week, a week from tomorrow.
A week from tomorrow. Golly, that is crazy.
Start drinking your water now.
Yeah, it's going to be hot out there, but
Yep.
man, it is going to be so much fun. This is one of those events that I can't wait for every year, because when we talk about community things, there's nothing that represents community the way that event does.
Same thing here. There's a couple of events that we do every year: Christmas tree lighting, the Christmas parade, where the community comes together and does those kind of things, are super highlights at the end of every calendar year, and going into the Christmas season, and then obviously New Year's, but then Celebrate Freedom. It's that time that it doesn't matter who you are, what color skin you are, what religion you are, what you believe politically or otherwise. We all align around the greatness of our country,
Right.
and the
And
freedom and the freedom that we enjoy, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned Juneteenth, and what a historical event.
Yep.
That historical event and the news of the end of slavery getting to Texas 2 years later, right there in Galveston, Texas,
Right, yeah, right down the
right
road
in our
from us.
right in our backyard,
Yeah.
and celebrating, the end of one of the darkest times in our country.
Right.
But at the same time, then we turn around and we all together celebrate just the greatness that our country is, and celebrate freedom. And so, at Independence Park, I mean, it's great. I mean, we're going to have all of the food trucks and bouncy houses and all that kind of stuff that's going on, and getting ready for our families to gather. Starting that evening. It doesn't go on all day. We know it's super hot.
Yeah.
Starting around 6 o'clock, we'll start gathering, and by the time those fireworks go up a little bit after 9 o'clock, there'll be 12 to 15,000 people in the park, and I always tell people within about a 1 mile radius of the park, including in the park, there's probably 25,000 people sitting on the roadside in their cars and parking lots and others to watch those fireworks go off. And there's something about watching fireworks together with your family that just kind of,
and with your neighbors,
with your neighbors, and just kind
countrymen.
of brings everybody together,
It does,
and those types of things. But we're going to celebrate freedom and celebrate our country and celebrate the greatness that this country really is. And I'll say this, politically and otherwise, I mean, it's a presidential election year and all that, and we're going to hear between now and November, all kinds of this and that, and good things and bad things, and attacking people and all that, and but at the end of the day, this is the greatest country on the face of the earth.
Yeah, amen to that.
Okay, it is. Even with all of our warts and problems, it's the best on the planet, right? And because people are dying to get here.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's one of the things that we discussed during all that political side. But just remember, if you live in America, I mean, you have it far better than 90+% of the people around the world.
Yeah.
And that we have to come together and celebrate, and just celebrate the freedoms that we enjoy, the freedom to express, the freedom to have expression, ideas, religion, freedom of speech, all those kind of things that we take for granted.
Right. And we shouldn't.
And we shouldn't. And yet move to another part of the country or another part of the world, and you may wake up one day and go, wow, I don't have the freedoms here that I have, back home. And so let's celebrate that and have a great time. Remember, be responsible. It's going to be hot.
Yes.
Water, all those kind of things. Take care of yourself in the sun.
Yep.
All of those kind of
Sunscreen.
things. Sunscreen. Right.
And a couple of things. Obviously we do shoot fireworks out there, so shelter your pets. We don't advise bringing animals, pets out to Celebration of Freedom. A lot of other events are more pet friendly, but because we have fireworks, they advise against that.
Yeah. Well, in the sheer number of people.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people there. Yeah. I will tell you, just in my experience here, every year, maybe it's I don't know what it is, but we typically always get a rainstorm, either the day before or the day of. Early in the day. And so last year it happened, it was literally like 10 o'clock in the morning, and by about noon it was sunny and humid as all get out. But the night turned out great. So we do keep a very close eye on the weather. We actually typically have an incident action plan call the morning of, especially if there's weather in the area, just to make sure everything's good to go.
Right now it shows low chance of rain for next Thursday.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
But we're in Texas. Yeah. 15 minutes.
Yeah, if you don't like the weather in Texas, wait 5 minutes.
Yeah,
exactly. So come out to that. It starts at 6. Fireworks are at 9. Right. Just like this, we do also live stream that event so that everybody can participate in it, including the fireworks. 18-minute firework display brought to you by Bayway Chevrolet. Thank you for our sponsors there. They're also, Bayway Chevy is also our presenting sponsor. So you're going to see some fun promotions. You saw one earlier in this broadcast here where we partner with Bayway, and they let us do some fun stuff with a few of their vehicles. But they'll be out there. They're also actually doing a giveaway. Joe, is it at Celebration of Freedom they're doing the giveaway? 3 years of maintenance for free for one lucky winner there. So, if you want to celebrate, that's another way to celebrate. And then all the stage entertainment. There's going to be tons of entertainment on the stage. That's all brought to us by our good friends at HEB. So we're really appreciative of that. And I mean, I'm so excited. We have one question. Will you guys be in Independence Park for Independence Day? What information or insight from the Pearland TX community is helpful for us to share or ask you guys? I appreciate the live stream. So we have, you'll see a ton of social media content across Pearland Parks in the city of Pearland, Facebook, Instagram, website. I drew a blank there. So there's a special events page specifically for Celebration of Freedom that has everything you need to know, including parking, ADA parking, the vendor layout, how everything's going to be laid out there, as well as any other important information.
I think it's also important to note, this is one of the largest events that we have every year in the park, and as such, because of the parking situation, a lot of the parking takes place at Pearland High School, across Pearland Parkway from the park. So we actually close that segment of Pearland Parkway.
Correct.
I can't remember exactly what time. It's usually around 5-ish.
I think it's 5 or 5:30.
Somewhere in that ballpark before it starts at 6. So for safety and security of family walking back and forth and those types of things, we want to make sure that we have a safe environment.
Yes.
Plenty of our public safety people on hand to make sure that we maintain good crowd control and those types of things, as well as our EMS personnel there for people getting overheated and all of that. So we have plenty of personnel on file or on ready to go to take care of all of the needs. So it's going to be a fun night. It always is. And like I said, all the stress of the day and everything else gets caught up in it. Yeah. But then when those fireworks start going off, everybody just kind of sits back and watches and enjoys it. And something about 18 minutes of fireworks that just kind of let everything care and concern of the world just kind of go away for a while.
So on the website you will find a full list of what to bring, what not to bring, which is super helpful. Typically, and again, this is just historical experience speaking, lawn chairs, you can bring blankets, but if it has been raining, the ground's going to be wet, so folding chairs are always a good thing to include. And then you can bring coolers. I don't think... you can bring outside food and beverages, not glass containers, obviously, because broken glass is dangerous. And the parking is all at Pearland ISD, and they don't allow tailgating there, so don't plan on rolling out the tailgate barbecue stuff. But come over to the park and
So the barbecue on wheels, we can't bring that.
yeah, no, I would advise barbecue beforehand
Yeah.
and then bring
Yeah.
it in your ice chest and just enjoy it at the park. But there are going to be food vendors there.
Yeah.
Valentin's is going to be out there, which is going to be super
Yeah, I
fun.
haven't seen the lineup. It'd be good to know who's coming.
Yes.
So,
So we're going to be, and watch the social media because we're going to have all that stuff coming out leading up to the event as well. So we're doing our countdown post now. We're very, very, very excited about it.
yeah.
So that's Celebration of Freedom. What else are we celebrating? We're celebrating our first full month of the Pearland Water
Correct.
customer portal.
Yeah, customer
Have
portal
you signed
going
up yet?
well.
We signed up here.
I did. I think I was number one. Number one, going live right here a month ago. And so far, I haven't seen the latest numbers as of today through the portal who have signed up, but I know it's going well.
16,000.
16,000
Out of
so,
40,000 customers.
So we're getting better and better response. And through this last month, we've found a couple of glitches here and there. We've been able to work through with our IT professionals to fix and maintain some of those types of issues and work those out. And it's interesting. We had somebody come to council about a month ago, just after signing up. They saw their portal, and they noticed there was some gaps in getting information. And it was interesting because this is how this portal can help us and work.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, the endpoint, so when you lift up the meter, the meter box,
There's a meter itself,
there's a
and then
meter, and then on the lid, there's
transmitter.
Yeah, there's a little transmitter, and it, lack of a better term, the antenna.
Yep. That's pretty much what it is.
CGR, that's what it is. And so that antenna was going bad. And so at the end of the day, we noted it, we were able to repair it, or actually
Swap it
we
out.
replaced it with a cellular endpoint.
Yep.
And everything was back to normal and running well. And people want to know, well, if that's happening, is my bill accurate? The answer is yes.
Right. Bill's always been accurate.
Because that meter is continuing to meter, and it does have, and even if we didn't receive information, ultimately we would do a drive-by.
Right.
And that drive-by would pick that up. So we know
Because the information is on the meter itself.
it's on the meter, and we could do a drive-by. We can extract that information.
Yep.
The goal is we want to have less and less drive-bys over time.
Because those
And-
are time-consuming
Yeah,
and
and
labor-intensive.
just like anything else, I mean, we have meter boxes that get damaged.
Yep.
We have meters that get damaged.
Yep.
Somebody
They
drives
get
over
hit with
one
a
or
lawnmower.
something
or,
like that, and
Yep.
and so we are aware that those kind of happen along the way, and so the great thing is it alerted the customer.
Yep.
The customer alerted us.
Yep.
And we were able to be on it and resolve that fairly quickly, after knowing about it. And so the portal seems to be working well. I think we've had some questions that came up on a social media post about the portal the last day or so.
One of the questions, Sarah Murphy, thank you for submitting a question. She said, we can't seem to get an itemized monthly water bill. I understand IT is aware of the issue, but can you advise when it is expected to be resolved?
It's a great question.
It is a good question. I think I know what it is that you're talking about. So I'm going to get a little technical and complex for just a second. So there are three different systems. You have the water billing, or the water customer portal, right? Which is the interface that customers are engaging with. That is the brand name for that is called WaterSmart, right? So we have WaterSmart in the middle. The information that feeds the hourly data that comes from the meters, which ultimately also provides it's the same billing information, but the hour-by-hour data that gets fed from the meter to WaterSmart is transmitted by Itron through our CGRs or through the cellular endpoint. So the water meters are sending up data every 8 hours, and then it's being dumped into the system. And then separately from that, if you're receiving a paper bill, that's coming from, Josh Heiberger, help me out with this, that's coming from, what's the name of the company that does the paper bills? It's Data Pros. Data Pros creates the paper bills. So you have three different partners that are connected here. To get the paper bill, which has the itemized information into it, into WaterSmart. We have to create a connection between Data Pros and WaterSmart.
Right.
And that's the piece that IT is finishing up now. Right. And so eventually you will have that feature directly in WaterSmart. Now, you can see your bill amount, and you can pay your bill, which all that information is readily available. It's just that the details of being able to break it down has to go through Data Pros to WaterSmart.
Yeah, and on this subject, you know, what's important about the portal is we do need every customer to go in and register. If you are on auto pay, you'll need to go in and redo that.
Yes, thank you.
In the portal, because by law, we can't touch your banking information. We can't go and get it from this system and transfer it to this system, because that means we would be touching your, whether you have a bank draft and your banking information or a credit card information. And we just simply can't house or touch those, so you need to go in and do that. And I know it's a little bit of an inconvenience, but you know, I'm one of the least technical people, you know, on the planet. And last month, you know, I registered ours, you know, right here, you know, live, you know, for everybody to see. And if I can do that, trust me, 95% of people in Pearland will have no problem going in and doing that.
Well, and we can't overemphasize enough the importance of people who are on specifically recurring credit card payments. So if you are on ACH, I don't know what ACH stands for.
It's
automatic. It's your bank draft.
Right.
If you're on bank draft, that's not impacted by WaterSmart, because that's a direct transaction between our bank and your bank. So none of that was disrupted. But the
credit card,
the third-party services provider for credit card transactions was updated with WaterSmart, and that's the part that has to be fixed. And I mention that specifically because we know to date only about a third of our customers who have been on RCC, recurring credit card payments, have logged into WaterSmart. And so the concern obviously is that if you don't update that information and the payment fails, you're going to get an alert.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. I said if you don't,
right.
I mean,
right. It's going to be a problem.
It will alert you eventually that
Yep.
you're late on your payment, and we're going to work through all of those kind of
Absolutely.
things. I
Yep.
want people to be don't panic if you get that. We're going to work through all of that. As you can imagine, because of the WaterSmart and the portal and this change. We do have an elevated call volume.
Yes.
I wouldn't say that it's outrageous or uncontrollable or anything like of that nature, but we do have a little bit higher call volume, you know, into the water billing area right now.
Yep.
And so be patient.
Yes.
Be patient with getting through that. And by all means, does the billing have an email address where people can send emails as well?
They do, and now that you ask me, I forget what it is.
Because and that's maybe something we can
find
even put into the feed, because honestly, you know, we're not going to go out there and have drastic measures, you know, on people because we haven't gotten the billing yet. So, you know, by all means, send an email. Just give us a day to look at those and respond and get back. You might not get an immediate response in 10 or 15 minutes. It might be 24 hours. It might be 48 hours.
Yep.
But just know we're on it, and we're going to take those, each and every one of those, seriously.
Absolutely.
And get your questions asked and answered, and hopefully 100% get everything resolved.
So they do have an email address, and I knew this in the back of my mind. I had to reach way back. Are you ready for this? It's a difficult email. Waterbilling at PearlandTX.gov.
Yeah.
It just makes so much sense. But there is also, if you go to the water billing landing page on the website, you can submit questions directly there as well, which is a really nice feature. So definitely use those methods. We want everybody to know that customer service is always at the forefront, especially when it comes to water billing. And if you've had the opportunity to talk to any of our customer service representatives over there, you know how committed they are to solving all of these issues. So give them a little bit of grace and
Josh, you just mentioned customer service, and I don't know if we have the ability to put the survey up.
Oh yes.
But we at the council and our executive team, you know, executive staff here at the city, we take customer service very, very seriously. and we need to hear from you. So we are in
Yes.
the process of going through, how do we update and get better and at our customer service. Our customers are our constituents. In water billing, it's actual customers of water. So it's real important that we are updating those standards. And so instead of just saying, well, we're going to increase customer service,
Right.
we need to know
What
what
does
that
that
looks
actually mean?
like,
Yeah.
and how does that work. And we need to know, how do we know if we're improving
Right.
or not?
Right.
So metrics. And so we actually have a survey out that we want to hear from you, your customer service
Yes.
experiences and those types of things, so we can learn and get better over time. And ultimately, we want to set standards.
Absolutely.
And we want to start moving in that direction. We've been talking about, standing up some type of a call center. We've been
Right.
talking about, those types of things. So we are responsive and more timely in being able to get questions asked and answered and problems resolved for folks.
Yeah.
Not just water billing, but just any
Everything.
types of situations around our community. And so, it might be, getting to a repair, it might be a sidewalk repair, it might be any number of
A
things that
public
we have to
information
deal with.
request could be
Right.
any number of things.
And how we do that. So we have a survey out that's right out there right now to get your feedback.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. We put it in the comments.
perfect.
And this is something that's I'm very passionate about and close to, and have been involved in the customer service aspect of it. So to offer a little bit more insight, we've already done a set of internal focus groups with all of our front-facing employees to say specifically, what does customer service look like to you?
Yep.
What is good customer service? What are your expectations? When somebody picks up the phone or when somebody tries to reach out to you, how quickly do you get back to them? Or
Right.
what's your standard? So that we can see across the city. And the survey is along those same lines. So not just what does good customer service look like, but as a resident, what are your expectations?
Right.
So that we can do two things. One, set standards that meet those objectives,
meet 'em.
but also set expectations.
Correct.
What's realistic, right? And so getting to a very base level of, all right, here are the non-negotiables for
Right.
customer standards, right? Here are the things that we're going to commit to as an organization, and then building upon that, right? So that we start with a real hard and fast set of just rules,
Right.
guidelines that are easy to follow and that everybody can understand.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'm going to answer this, and I'm going to go back and answer one of the questions about water billing and the water portal
Yep,
itself.
yep.
But on customer service and customer standards, in fact, we have new employees that come through to the city. We have, and it's called New Employee Experience. So we put
Yep.
them through a week long of training and understanding of who we are as a city, our core values, our strategic priorities, and all those kind of things. And I go in and speak with them on Thursdays of that week. And so one of the things that I always talked about is, each and every one of us work for, we're part of the city. As a mayor, I'm part of the city. As an employee, you work for the city. But I always ask them, at the end of the day, everybody has a supervisor, but who's your boss?
Right.
Who is your boss? And the answer to that is the 132,000 people that are citizens of Pearland.
Sure.
We have that many bosses.
Right.
And every single one of them are our boss.
Yep.
And so I say that because if you're out in the public or you're interfacing with the public, remember the person you're interfacing with is your boss.
Right.
And so how do you treat them? How do you talk to them? How do you interact with them?
Yep.
And making sure that you're trying to bring that customer service level and care and concern and taking care of their needs and their questions and those types of things as best as possible, so that customer interaction
Right.
is 100%. That's
Yep.
what we want to get to, right? And it's just something to remember that how would you talk to somebody on the phone, or how would you talk
Yep.
to somebody out in the field,
Yep.
like your supervisor,
Yeah.
and making sure that you have that
Or your
that
grandma.
interaction, or your grandma.
I mean,
I love that.
That's the unfortunately, not unfortunately, my grandmother lives here in Pearland, and unfortunately, a while back she tripped and fell, and they had to call EMS.
Sure.
And so my first question was, "How do they treat you?" And she said they were
Phenomenal.
yeah, perfectly professional and
Yeah.
extremely helpful and sensitive and gentle with her. And I knew that would be the case, but I mean, I always,
You just want to know.
I always want to know.
want to verify.
Because that's my grandma. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
And they didn't know she was your
no,
grandmother
no,
when
no.
they.
That's how
when
they
made
treat
the- right.
all the residents, and
Right.
so we talk about it too, and specifically in new hires, but a lot about our organizational why we exist as an organization, and we break it down to the individual employee level. But at the organization level, we exist because of the community,
Absolutely.
right? And that's a symbiotic relationship. If we weren't here, then the community wouldn't be. But if the community wasn't here, then we definitely would not be.
Right.
And we have a responsibility to maintain that sense of community, and that starts with customer service. That
Correct.
starts with treating people like human beings and being respectful and empathetic and caring about the work we do. And I'm not saying any of our employees don't. I am fortunate enough to work with a lot of our employees, and they really commit to that. Everybody that I work with is just an inspiring story. And just a shameless plug for our other podcast, if you go and listen to the People of Pearland podcast, we interview employees from all over the city, and we don't pick them based on their aptitude or skill level or anything like that. We pick random employees from across the city and interview them, and we get this similar theme. They have this passion for public service and a dedication to this community that is nothing short of impressive.
Right.
And so. We need to articulate that in our customer service standards, but I think it'll just reinforce and validate what we already know about what we do.
Right. I want to go backwards just a little bit. We had a question about what was the idea behind Pearland Water Customer Portal. Is Water Smart to monitor water usage and bill pricing? And can the water portal also have ways to save more, water and increase water pressure? And so, great questions.
Yep.
And we're going to break that down and answer that just a little bit. But the answer is, the water portal is the whole idea behind the water portal is to put you in charge of your usage.
Yep. Put the power in the customer's
And so
hands.
you understand where and what and how your usage is going on a daily basis as well as an hourly basis. So when you get the portal, the information, if you just look at the 1 day back, that's going to be 24 hours behind you, okay? I wish it was real time, but it's not. These things upload every 8 hours. So the portal, if you see today, 1 day's usage, it'll be yesterday's usage.
And I should say too, I mean, you got to think about the massive amount of data that's being transferred. We have 40,000 customers, and if you're transferring 8 hours worth of data, every 8 hours,
Right.
and then processing every 24 hours,
Right.
just do the compounded
Right.
math on that. It's a ton of
it-
data.
it's a lot of things going around in the air that, that are going into computers and everything else. But it puts that in your hands. You can go in and say, if I use over 300 gallons in a given day, I want to be notified.
Yep.
And so, you'll be notified if you go over that 301 and above. You'll be notified. So you can find out and go, hey, what happened? What happened yesterday to cause that alert to happen? At the same time, you can go back and look at 30 days or 40 days worth of usage,
Yep.
and
All the trend data.
It gives you pie charts on your data.
Yep. And those can be fine-tuned based on your profile. We
Absolutely,
talked about that last time.
and it's going to fine tune over time.
Yep.
But for example, one of our council members, in fact, Monday, showed me their Water Smart portal, and they said, we've had a leak and we didn't even know.
Yeah.
And it actually alerted them, and it said, you've got some type of continuous use. And again, I'll say this, we don't know and can't say you definitely have a leak.
Sure.
You could have just left a faucet on
Right.
where it's dripping. And something simple as that. But we do know, and we can tell through the data, that there is usage every hour of the day.
Yeah.
We look at that is continuous usage, and it will come up red in your bar chart.
Yep.
It'll say, here's kind of your normal usage. This is happening all the time, and it's alerting you. And
Yep.
it'll even say in the portal, you may have a leak. You need
Right.
to look at this, right? If you have timed usage, irrigation system,
Yep.
those types of things, the system knows that every 3 a.m., every other day or every third day, it's clicking on.
Yeah.
It's recording and knowing those types of things, and it will it's smart enough, water smart, that is probably irrigation. That's probably irrigation, and so it will show you in a pie chart how much that is of your usage,
Yeah.
and you will be
Shocked.
surprised
Yeah.
at how much your irrigation system is adding to your bill and adding to your usage. Of course, we all want beautiful grass, beautiful lawns, and those types of things. That's just maintaining our property. And in the heat, and in a
You
drought
do it.
situation
Yeah.
that we had last year, you know, the cost of water in watering your foundation
Right.
is way cheaper than going
Than
through a
foundation
foundation
repairs.
repair,
Right.
right?
Yep.
And so, but again, it puts the power of that usage and that consumption back into your hands.
Absolutely.
Also on the portal, there are tips to
Yep.
save money
Yep.
and how to do that. So to the
Water conservation
to the
suggestions.
resident that asked that question, there are things on the water portal where you can go there and helpful hints as to what you can do to conserve water.
Yep.
And we want people to conserve water.
Absolutely.
Water is a precious resource. I will say this: the state of Texas has is and has a water crisis, and getting water for our communities is a difficult thing. Here in Pearland, we have secured long-term water resources for the ultimate build-out of our city, and we were very forward-thinking in doing that for decades.
Right.
As
Literal
a community.
decades.
Yeah, as a community, and I'll say, I mean, we get talked about and beat up about water pricing and cost and those types of things. It is a valuable resource, and it costs a lot of money to capture water and treat it and deliver it to
Yep.
your home. But without it, you don't live.
Right.
Air and
Right.
water are two things that you have to have.
Right.
And as our state continues to grow, as the greater Houston area continues to grow, water resources are going to become harder and harder to get. And again, the good news is we've secured that.
Well, and as an enterprise, you either pay for other people to invest, right? You either buy water under contract, and
Right.
then those people invest
Right.
in the hard infrastructure to make
Right.
that water happen, and then you're, at the mercy of whatever the rates they need to
Right.
drive that, or
We do it.
you bite the bullet and build your own infrastructure. And we are fortunate to have a combination, right? We buy water from the city of Houston. We're equity owners in another plant. We have our own surface water treatment plant that's about to come online,
As
and
well as
our
wells.
water wells. And so that diversification makes a huge difference. But to your point, it is not cheap.
No.
And the alternative is we either don't have it, or we're subject to somebody else who has to build it, and then it wouldn't be cheap that direction either.
Right. And if the city of Houston needs their water, guess what?
Right. We're not going to get it.
Who
Yep.
comes first?
Right.
And so we need that diversification for resiliency factors.
Yep.
If there's a contamination or an issue in one jurisdiction,
We can shut a tap and
we
move.
have the ability to shut and prepare and do our own water. And so that gives us that flexibility, that resiliency in those times of need. But the great news is, as you mentioned, surface water treatment plant, it's been in the planning stages and execution and construction phases now for a very long time. We are now up and running. We've gotten, seems like everything clear by TCEQ. There's still some regulatory things that we have to complete and finish up.
Yeah. Before we can start pumping
along
water.
those lines,
Yeah.
but we are very, very close of actually putting water in the system, and that is 10 million gallons a day that we will have the ability to treat and put into the system. The good news is with that plant, we have the ability to add on an additional 10 million gallons a day. So taking care of future needs. In addition
Future-proofing, yeah.
In addition to that, communities south of us, like Manville and Iowa Colony, we are already in some discussions with them on how we could possibly sell water. As Josh mentioned, we're an equity owner and we buy water from the city of Houston. We may be able to do that very same thing for our sister communities and neighboring communities, here in the years to come. All those details obviously to be worked out and everything else. So, but it's real important that we do that. And since we're talking about water, let's talk about the wastewater side of things for just a second. Monday night, 2 nights ago, council
Yes.
meeting. We've got a very large project that's been in the works for many, many years. We've been talking about how the surface water treatment plant has been a large project that we've been implementing for many years. We've also had an upgrade to our John Hargrove Environmental Center, JHEC. It's all about acronyms.
Got to
around
do the
here.
acronyms.
JHEC around here, but upgrading because of the growth of our community. We needed to upgrade that wastewater treatment plant. That is nearing completion as well. So getting those projects off the books and done. But then we've got another wastewater project that at the end of the day, these two projects in one combined will be the single largest project in the history of our city.
Right.
North of $250 million to do these projects.
And that's not a brag. That's just to emphasize how big and complex this
and I would invite anyone to go back into our meeting on Monday night and kind of fast forward to the 2-hour mark in our meeting and see the discussion about the wastewater treatment plant in that discussion.
Yep.
Okay, because council takes this very seriously.
Sure.
They talk about this drives rates, this drives and impacts every single homeowner, every single business in our community. But at the end of the day, the necessity for it.
Right.
So I just, in a nutshell, and we'll talk about it, we have a wastewater treatment plant that's on Dixie Farm Road, right at Clear Creek. It's called the Longwood plant.
Yep.
If you drive by it, if you've driven by it, you've seen it.
On the right-hand side of the road
sits,
going
yeah,
towards
if you're heading
freeway.
north into Houston, it sits on the right-hand side. And that plant is about 60 years old and has reached its end of life.
Yep.
It really is. And we spend several $1 million a year just to maintain and keep that plant alive.
And is literally in the floodway.
And it's in the floodway.
Yep.
When I say keeping it alive, I mean not to this extreme, but like baling wire and duct tape. I mean it's keeping this system alive.
Yeah.
You know, until we can replace it and do what we need to do. But this plant is 60 years old, end of life. It sits in the floodway, which means every time we have a major rain event and Clear Creek is impacted, and certainly coming out of its banks, that plant is impacted.
Yep.
It's inundated with water, and as a result, we have an environmental issue every time that happens. So we've been, you know, not under orders, but under notification from TCEQ at the state level, as well as
The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, another acronym.
as well as the federal level and the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. So the responsible thing to do is we have to fix that.
Right.
At the same time, that plant is at 90% capacity. So the rules and the laws in Texas, we have to follow those rules just like anybody else, is you have to be at engineering at 75%. Well, we're at 90, and we're just now in engineering. And you have to be under construction at 90%, but we're not under construction yet. So, you know, but the TCEQ knows we've also been, these other two projects we've been working on. So they've been giving us waivers, you know, to get through this process, and knowing that you can't go and do all of these projects at one time.
Yep.
So the good news in all of that is we had an early works package. What that means is we do a guaranteed maximum price with a contractor.
GMP.
that we can go in and we lock in a price.
Yep.
And so we locked in price.
Which is how we did on our surface water treatment plant.
Correct. And what it does is it helps us control cost.
Yep.
It helps us control and get large lead items in the works early, so we can get those on order and get those delivered so we can start that construction. So you're going to start seeing construction of this site. So ultimately we're going to decommission this plant. We're going to take the plant down and do away with the plant.
Yep.
Put in
Convert
a
into
large lift station.
Yep. A regional lift station.
And that lift station pump our effluent back to the Berry Rose plant. When you drive Pearland Parkway at Berry Rose, you see that plant back over there.
Yep.
We have plenty of land there that we can be out of the floodway, environmentally safe, right? And we will completely rehab and redo that plant on that site to take care of both of those in one. So we're going to go from those two plants to one. Long term, that will be cost savings. It's a lot more efficient and cost effective to maintain a large regional lift station than it is a plant.
Yep, especially one that's in the floodway.
So that's going to help, as well as take care of the needs of the future. The Berry Rose plant is probably about 56 or 58 years old.
It's up there.
So it's being replaced in this whole construction, as we go through it. I say all that to say there's a lot of construction going on in our water and wastewater, but necessary.
Right.
If we didn't do it, ultimately, we would be forced to do it by
Right.
the federal government.
And have to pay fines on top of it.
and pay fines and all those kind of things. And as your mayor, it would be completely and totally irresponsible of our city to get to that level.
Well, it's just like the maintenance that we're doing on the natatorium, right?
Yeah. Things you have to do.
Things we have to do.
And we are cognizant of what that means in rates. We are cognizant of what that means to your individual budgets at home.
Right.
But I will tell you this, if you go to flush your toilet and it didn't work,
Right. How much is that worth?
that's what we're talking
Right.
about.
Yeah.
We can't get to that point,
Right.
and we're
Right.
not going to get to that point. So again, I invite you to go back and watch that discussion, because
Yep.
you see the care and concern from council on what this cost. At the same time, really have no choice but to do it.
Well, and to emphasize that just a little bit more, to the mayor's point, the conversation on Monday night, the Barry Rose Longwood project is broken into 3 phases,
Right.
essentially. And Monday was approval of phase one.
one.
It's $66 million just for that first phase, which is just a staggering amount of money.
Right.
And you'll see the conversation that goes along with it that highlights all of the points that we just talked about. But one of the things, when we talk about the guaranteed maximum price contract, the way that it controls costs, right? You have your engineering design partner and your construction partner, and they're working together to say, all right, what's the most cost-efficient way to make this a reality? So, for example, one of the saving graces in our surface water treatment plant, the ability to purchase steel, right, before all the inflation pricing hit the market. We were building in the middle of
Pandemic.
The pandemic and inflation, but they had already pre-purchased a lot of the heavy machinery and things that we needed to make that plan a reality. If we hadn't been under that GMP, our cost overrun would have been
Well, and I will say,
out of control.
because of the long lead items and the early works packages, we went through a pandemic building a 10 million gallon a day plant.
right, $175 million.
And stayed at or under budget.
Yep. Yep.
That now,
Which is huge.
we didn't stay on time, just like anything else.
Right.
We were subject to logistics issues and
Sure.
and those types of things, which the whole world had those issues as well. But we stayed at budget,
Yep.
and that was important to everyone. And so I have every reason to believe we will stay at or under budget. The good news with having the design team and the construction team working together is you get those constructability reviews. We actually, in our contract with McCarthy, that's the construction company that's driving this, we actually gave them some incentives.
Mm-hmm.
For we have some contingency, and if they are able to save money, which we want them to save money, we're actually sharing some of that savings with them. So that's an incentive for them to save some money on the project, and so that's important for everyone, because
Yeah.
we want to drive that cost down,
Right.
not up.
Right.
And we do believe we can see some costs come down by going this process.
One example that they gave just on Monday, it's a type of footer that they're going to pour for some of the foundational elements.
Right.
And so there was an initial design, and the construction partner said, well, what if we did it this way? They started collaborating on that, and that resulted in $5 million worth of savings just in concrete.
Right.
And so not everything's going to be that dramatic, but I
Right.
mean, that's what you're looking for, people who say, how can we get the most bang for our buck and provide the best thing for the community, so that when they flush their toilet, everything goes where it's supposed to.
Right.
The flip side of that, the enterprise fund, and this is something that we talk about pretty frequently, but the whole water, sewer system, all of that is supported by water rates and
Right.
water bills. It's a self-sustaining system.
Right.
So you get a bill, it has charges for water, it has charges for wastewater. That feeds directly back into the enterprise fund.
Right.
And when you see, from year to year, there's a rate increase, right? This last year was 14%. This next year we're looking at right now at about 14% increase because we have all of these massive projects.
It's the construction cost that's driving that.
But there's a whole rate model that goes into making sure that we're not charging more than we need to and not underfunding the system because there's a bare minimum that we have to collect to maintain the health of the system, to maintain the bond coverage that we need for securing debt because there's $250 million worth of projects that need to be done, and then to make sure that the system functions.
Yep.
In a healthy and appropriate manner. It's not easy. I mean, watching you all work up there, I mean, those are some really tough conversations.
Yeah.
And we encourage you to go and watch them. It's a lot, but it's definitely worth your time and attention because it's probably the most essential city service that we provide.
Yeah, and just remember as you're watching that, each one of us on the dais pay a water bill.
Right.
Every single one of us pay a water bill at home. Many of our council are business owners, and they pay water bills in their business, and so we're affected as well. I've got 4 children that live in the community, and all 4 of them pay water bills, and so it's important that we do the right thing for the system. At the same time, we try to thread that needle. Josh, that's what you talked about. We have to have enough money to be able to pay and fund our bills. At the same time, we don't want to overcharge.
Sure.
And so at this very same time as we set those rates, we have no idea what the summer coming will be.
Right.
So like last year, lots of water were spent because we had a drought.
Yep.
And so we actually had an increase in water usage, which is a good thing for the system.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
This year so far it's been wet.
Yep.
And so we may go through a summer of less usage.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know, and so we are doing our best guess, and so we try to take the outlier years, like a drought, out of the equation, and we try to run our rates based on normal usage through the summer, just to make sure that we can maintain the system. So,
but as we get into budget season, you'll see too the rate calculations, and it makes my head hurt. Personally, I try to follow along, but
there's a couple. When I look at those spreadsheets, there's just a couple of things that I focus in on. You know, I focus in on the debt ratio, the coverage ratio, and then I look at the overall fund balance, and are we running it down? Are we running at a deficit? Or if so, are we running it like super thin and right on the number?
Yep.
And again, it's like threading a needle. I mean, I have to have my glasses on to be able to, get that thread through the needle. And that's really what we're doing. We're trying to thread that needle that we have to charge to make sure that we pay our bills and deliver a system that will work at the same time, understanding that this is real money in people's pockets.
Yeah, that's right.
And so care and concern goes over that. And without it, we're all in trouble.
Right.
Monday night it was mentioned, just go Google Jackson, Mississippi.
Yeah.
Just Google Jackson, Mississippi. It's a city in Mississippi, obviously, that is about the same size as Pearland. It's marginally bigger, I think around 150,000 in population. And I am not joking. They are under orders by the federal government to fix their system. It's going to cost them $1 billion to fix their system because they didn't do it along the way.
Right. And they're under perpetual boil water notices.
And as a result, I think every other day they have a boil water notice. And I'm telling you, we are not going to go through that here.
Yeah.
That would be totally irresponsible.
Right.
Does that mean we have to charge and pay rates? Yes. We're trying to do it and not be fined by the federal government.
Yeah.
And we had a neighboring city in our Houston area that put off and put off and put off. We talked about that Monday night, and they got hit with a $700 million fine by the Department of Justice and the EPA. Okay,
and still had to do the project.
And still had to do the projects. And so I asked that question Monday night to put the severity if we don't do some of these projects, what happens?
Right.
And so I know we've talked a lot about this, but
but we can't talk enough about it.
Well, but it's one of those things that we're passionate that we have to deliver those essential services.
Sure.
And yes, they're expensive. And yes, every single community in the Houston area is going through the same struggle.
Right.
They are, especially growing struggles.
Yep.
City of Houston put off their Northeast water plant for decades. I actually talked to people who worked all the way back into White's administration, and they knowingly said, we're putting that off. Okay? And that project, it's up on the northeast part of Houston. It's $1.7 billion plant expansion.
Yeah.
And
it
had
has to
they
be paid for.
had they done it when they did, it would have been a